But right, so we dealt briefly in the last shiur when I get to the what we call the Chayzer, Yoshev Chayzer Mitzad HaMashpia Davke. And we saw that there was a Yinif and a Yosher and a Makiv, a Mitzad HaMekabel. But we saw that the discussion here was how those two inyonim are mitzad mashpia bilvad, not mitzad mekabel. The beginners makiv the Chayzer, the mashpia, about the fourth or fifth line, who makiv elyon beyoser asher bilti mizgal lamata klal uklal. In other words, the inyan from Chayzer is how the inyan is Tnuosei, as you might call it, is Hevach inyan Giloi. Because the concept of Yerida and the concept of Giloi are connected, as is well known, one with the other. That the thing which is Yored El HaMekabel is also Mizgale, of something which it's etzem Tnua, is not Yerida, it's Pamela not Ainin Shaliskalas, no, on the contrary, its Indian is Aliyah B'toich HaMashpia. In other words, the Machif of Chayzer Mitzad HaMashpia, not Mitzad HaMekabel. Now, Mitzad HaMashpia is how Ainin is Oila B'toich HaMashpia B'iloi Acha Iloi Behelem B'toich Atzma.
We have to see the day and the
Oh yes. So today is Yom Sheni Vov Elu Toshin Samach Zayin Hemshech Ayin Beis Chelik Rishain Kerach Aleph Omod Tov Yud Ches. And therefore we're going to see that this is an amazing chidush, that even that can and does come lidei giloi to the Mekabel, but not in the derech harogila of giloi. It comes mitzad zot minyonim, which are beginners chesed elyon and asina elyona lagamri, not that they're really shaykh to the inyan giloi. That's what he says, that it's a machif elyon b'yoser asher bilti mizkal lamata klal uklal, because its whole inyan is only aliyah v'ilui b'toich hamashpia atzmai. That's to say that he has a certain inyan b'atzmai, and with that he goes higher and deeper into his own koichis atzmim until it becomes like a inyan for yichud im atzmusei mamish, and therefore it's not in a state of giloi klal to mato, because mato and giloi are linked, as we pointed out. That something which is miskaleh to a makabel is b'chinas mato legabi its own immediate yichud with the mashpia, because that's all inyan of giloi is yerida. But b'chinas machif to Yosha Ashu Shabo Bekiru El Makabel Bekiru Eilo. In other words, it's still a makif, and it's still mitzad mashpia only, but it does come with some inyan of kiru to the Makabel. The whole purpose of this particular chapter will be to describe that kiru. In other words, if it's called a makif, then we need to understand what shayat inyan from kiru, and particularly if it's mitzad mashpia, that's to say it's mitzad the what you might call the ilui of the mashpia and his havdalah from the Makabel, then what is the pshat that it comes in a form of kiruv to the Makabel? Everybody got it? Tehine machit the Yosha, well, Dorach Moshe, talking now purely mitzad mashpia. Ashpoas HaSeichel, כמו ירב המשפיע Seichel וספורר לתלמידוי, שמה שיוכל להסקבל בשכל התלמיד, הרי זה נקרא אור פנימי, שמשיישב בכלי מויכי של התלמיד, שתפס ומסיק עשר עניין. So the concept of hashpura to a Talmud links itself, Claudius, with the idea of pnimi. The tachlis of all hashpura, meaning that the Makabel and the Talmud should receive a inim which becomes mishyashiv in his kelim, and in this particular case that's in Beklei Moichoi, even that it's mishyachid with the kelim to the point that he's able to say tefisa, like the Alter Rebbe's Masber in Tanya Perikei, the whole concept of tefisa, that he's makif on the Indian and he takes it inside his kli mikol tzar. And that's the Indian masik. Masik is also the same Indian that becomes part of him. In other words, that his Matthias, as you might say, is Mishyakid and Makabel Indian Zeb Pnimis Kelo. But in every Seichel, there's a Oimek Seichel there, She'iev Shel Eskabel Bekli Moichoi, Arizen Nisha Bechinas Makif Olov, V'hainu Shu Behelem V'ester Mir Makabel. ומכל מוקים הרי זה בקירוב אלוב, כי גם העמק הזה שנישא בהלם, הרי זה בערך השגות זה. כל מה שמשפיע לו, הרי זה בערך הסוגר שלו. אבל אמיתי עניין והשפוע בדרך הרגיל, is from המשפיע, what עניין is Hebdeleer van de Makabel. He's higher bein aroik like Abi the Makabel. So that's moving that anything that he gives the Makabel, who is able to take that Indian bishashvas bekli moichoi, well, that's only what you might call a haora and a tzimtum and a hadbora legabi the way the Rav himself is masik Indian zeh, being as he is, ein arek legabi the Talmud. So therefore, the Indian oya pnimi means that a certain oimek in the whole seichel has been left in hashra el Talmud b'pchinas makif olah. So that when a Rav Amiti gives a Talmud a seichel, then it's got in itself two inyanim. It's got the seichel how it's more be'erach seichel harav, more mitzad his inyan, even though there's also a certain yerida, as we pointed out, for any form of iskalas, afiru b'makiv, is a yerida mesuyemes. After pikein, that's still nisha, still dovuk in the oifen ha'asoga derav. Today to be mashpil b'klei moicho, he had to be matzamtzim b'tzimtzum rav v'godl the ikar ha'asoga. So you've got the two inyonim. You got the erech of the asoga el Talmud el klei moicho, but that's mishyashiv and mishyachid with klei moicho. And then you got the chelik ha'seichel, which is still mitzad the ikar havona of the mashpia. Mitzad ma'alosish of a mashpia, well, that remains unable to enter the kli, and therefore it remains in a makif ala kli. But it was given to the Makabel. We shpilod over there, I will say oimed alav bentayim b'evin shomaki. But the whole purpose of that ashpur, and the purpose of having given that oimed, which is oimed b'makif ala kli, is that eventually that should also be nitfas b'toich hakli. That's the whole in it. So man need the vibal of the Talmud le'esato is Talmud koto of zeh koton godel yi, as the saying has it, and he will grow and he'll be from them gufa what he receives these sikli mi'arav and these ashpoyas mi'arav, and then eventually, as he'll bring in a minute, the lashon of the Gemara that koyimina shataita the rabbi, eventually you'll be able to draw that makiv even into klei moichoi b'derech yishashva. That's the purpose. That's the whole tachlis of having been mashpia him that aspect of the seichel. Because otherwise it would have made more sense just to keep that aspect of the seichel legamre Eichel Arav, and just to give him a dova Matzumtzum Ma'id, which would be Mishyasi B'Kli Sichla. But he said no, there's the Indian of the Oimek, which is also called Kiru. And that's the contra, or what you might call the paradox in the two Inyonim, that it's a Oimek which is Nishab Amakiv, but it's really a Kiru. Because it's Nimshach Eilov, even though it's Nishab Behelem, it's Be'erach Hasagose. To call Mashamash Pirloi, anything which a Rav gives him, but Derech Hashpoah, Harizeh Be'erach Hasagashaloi. The Regazeh, it's not Be'erach, but it is really Be'erach, because the Ashora Amitius of the Rav has been that Alidei Ishtapris in the Klei Moiche, the Makabel, that he'll be able to eventually to take that. And we have to assume that that's part of the Ashora, which is like a preparation for the whole union of the Ashpur, where the Rav is Messiah, B'atzmi, what are in effect the Shadiyas and the Koiches and the Kli HaMakabel. And we saw, on the contrary, that that's what he got to do with the union for Noyer Yosher, Noyer Choyze, how they are mitzad the Makabel. כי גם האימך הזה שנישא בהלם זה בערך, כל מה שמשפיע לו זה בערך, רק מפני שכלי הסקוסי קטנים עדיין, for the time being the kelim are still small and limited, בערך האימך הזה, היינו, בכל מקבל לפי ערך האימך. So the Rebbe said that's true, any makabel, it doesn't matter just dafki makabel kota. No, it means any makabel will his kelim will be ketanim at the beginning lefi erech ha'oimek. In other words, the word ha'oimek amiti, it's ha'oimek which comes mitzad the heder ha'erech of the Rav. Then any makabel, no matter if he's a Baal Kishrin Godel, at the beginning it'll also be shalei be'erech eilov, because it's a oimek amiti mitzad the amiti is asoga of the Rav. וגם מפני שהאור פנימי אינו עדיין בישעשוס גמורה אצלו. So the Rebbe said, the Kumte said, every Indian which a Rav will give has got itself the pnimias and the yechilas lislaship pnimias and the chelik of the seichel which remains in a even from Maki. That's Bekol Makabel, Bekol Mashpia. So it comes to us that even where it's Bishashvus Toivo, there's still a Oimek which is Nisha. But he said the truth is, Gam, another point, is that Misha, Penime Eina Adayim Bishashvus Gemura Etzloi. Alkeinu Prinas Maki. Even that which is shy to his Kli, or Vibaldi, he's Betchilas Dache as a Talmud, he's a Talmud which is beginning. And he's only a Talmud Koton, that's why we call him a Talmud Koton, not that he's really a Koton, but he's a Koton Bini and there. And therefore, even which he does take into his Kli, it's like pouring into the Kli and spilling it over. In other words, that he takes in the Kli, but that which was really meant for Panimi is also a bit too much for him to take. Betchilas Darkoi, and therefore there's a certain Indian of Makif, even Beneged to what he's taking, Pneumishaloi. And that's the Gam. But the Gam says that even what he is taking, B'Yishasvas, also is not in the best way imaginable. He's not able to even take that completely yet. And therefore, there's even a part of that which remains Maki. Or Meshach Hazman, Kasher Oinya Mishashi, V'nat Nitfas Yoisa, B'Kli Moichoi. The Gam Kli Moichoi Mishgadlim. Beho Tanya, the Agdolas HaKelim, who are the day Asogas of Tvisas HaSeichel, Arihu Bo Gam Alohimek. We see there's two nuances in the Oimek. There's a Oimek Amiti Mitzad the Rav, what that's Kol Makabel, doesn't matter who he is, that Machif will always be there by him, because the Rav is Ayin Aroit, the Kol Makabel, remember. And there's always a Oimek Masuyam which will remain, even the Gabi a good Makabel. But also, said the Rebbe, the derech is that B'tchilas Hashpoah and in the Dachei Hashpoah, that the Rav gives the Indian in a way that it should be Nishashiv, B'Kelim, however, the Keli is not used to it yet, so even what should really be going into the Keli is Nishpach, as you might say, doesn't the Gamri go into the Keli. There's another Indian in Oimek, there's what you might call what the Kelim can't really be Makabel, well, that's called Oimek. And then there's the Oimek Amiti Belavochim, which remains Bechinas Maki. However, Meshach Hazman, when the Indian is Mishashiv more by him, then also is Klei Moichim Amish Gadlim. And the Rebbe says it's one dependent in the other. The Agdolas HaKelim Hu Al Yedei Asolis V'Tvisas HaSeichel, as is well known. The famous Piyur, which has become a Mekayim, particularly in the Hemshech Toshin Tes, near the beginning, and other places where the Rabbeim Mamash bear that the brain mamish grows, it mamish is mishtaper, al yedei exercise, al yedei what it does, its task, and it's masik, and it's mishtadl to take sichlim, nailim, than its ordinary everyday function. Well, that causes a broadening of the kelim with the moyach, and that's a dova gashmi that happens mamish in the etzem moyach itself, that it gains a toisafus yechoilis and koyach in its own self. It expands and grows, and that's what we mean by klei moichoi mishkadlim. They mamish grow and improve in such a way that they can take the amitius, pnimius, and oimek at a seichel, because they're growing and expanding. And the reason they didn't take that pnimius for oimek was because they just couldn't be toifus at b'tchilas hashpoah. V'hari hu bo gam al oimek. Through the fact that his moya mamish improves, then eventually he comes to the oimek. In other words, first of all, he takes up what the pnimi couldn't take. And then al yidei zeh, he's gradually oile v'mistabik afilu in the oimek ha'amiti. V'kamoili acha mem shnin the koim ina shadaitei the rabbi. After 40 years, a mensch koim stands with you. He absorbs, as you might say. He takes within himself datei the rabbi, the amitius shefer that was given to him by the Rav. So the inyan from datei the rabbi doesn't just mean the etzem hasoga, but it means also the kavona and the tachlis that was meant with the whole hashpoah, as well known. The Hainu.
Why that's good 40 years?
Because we see that's what happened in the Midbar. After the 40 years, Moshe Rabbeinu said, "Ki lo yinosan lecha Hashem leiv ladas v'yidayim lishmoya ad hayom hazeh." So Rashi said, "V'yom hazeh nosan." So it took him 40 years, even the Dera Midbar, to be mamish oile onto what Moshe Rabbeinu was really saying to him. That's the Ikeh right. So I think it's brought in some places. That doesn't mean to say that it must take by every makabel 40 years. And there's no, it's like a gezerah she'ein l'zeh shinui. No, we see that that's kilu the al derech ha'arogio, where we're talking about a Rav Amiti v'chulu. Then that's, as it were, the Shia Arbain Shnin. If somebody's a Talmud Zoris, and he's a Talmud Amiti, he's mamish Ibe, they say Ibe gegepon, even Amiti, then it could be it's less than 40 years. But I mean, you mean to tell me we don't see it ourselves? I mean, I can find even in myself that there's certain things that even at this, how do you call it, point in my life where I heard those things, 40 years ago. I'm just really beginning to appreciate what the Rebbe meant. It's, you find that there's a certain point where certain inyonim click in a way that wasn't in your so-called younger and more, sort of impulsive years, even though you meant good, and even though you had certain inyonim which were mitzad harav. But you only begin to chap certain inyonim b'zman musuyam. I mean, that's the way I find it. And I think it's maybe true of a lot of people. And there's one problem that you can sort of see that it's clicking, but you resist it. You don't want it to click for some reason. Chas v'sholem. Therefore, you've got to be ready and open to say that, well, it's clicking, and I've got to draw the necessary nafkaminas and draw the necessary maskanim. And that's a pshat of ad arboim shnin. And therefore, you see that it does take about that amount of time. Until you really begin to chap, what did you really hear? מה באמס רמיתי, אתה שמעת ואתה קיבלת. Understands? What the Rav really was, what he was mashkia in his makabel, and in you particular. Right, say it is. So he says, Dahainu, alidei ha'ishaskes be'oya pnimi. שעל ידי זה מסגדלים הכלים שלו, הרי הוא בו גם על העמק. So the Rebbe said, it's not that you go hop on the roof looking for the oimek the whole time. Say, oh, come on, let's forget this pnimi business. Let's go for the oimek. Lo zu haderech. Well, you have to be misasik in what you did get, and you have to understand that better and broader. And b'meila you get to the oimek. Can you understand the question? In other words, don't leave the Pnimi behind and get krichen in makifim and in oimkim that are not shy to you for zmanahu. What you did understand and what you did get, keep repeating it, keep working at it, keep improving your knowledge, which has been mishyashiv in your kli. Alidei zeh, you'll come to the oimek. In other words, since the kelim are growing mitzad your usage of that ashpah that you got, then can you understand? It's a inyam meneu bay. It's like happening inside you by dealing with the limited amount you did get. But that being as it is, also the shefa of the Rav, then that's improving your brain the whole time in such a way that it's almost an unnoticeable, what you might call, it's almost an unnoticeable effect that you gain the oimek. It sort of comes as you go along. And that's what you sometimes try to tell people. They come to you and say, listen, if I only had to wait and do it, and I'm so impatient, and I'm a balchunik, and I came late to all this, and I need this, and I need something else, and a hin and a hair. So what you have to tell people, just keep working at what you do have, just keep working. And gradually, the things open, and the oimek is belafov miskala to the person. And that's what the Rebbe said, that the isaskits, and isaskits doesn't mean you sit down and to say, oh yes, I heard that, but you misasik bedo, you really busy yourself with it, according to the koiches that you have, and like we just pointed out, that causes the kelim are anyway expanding, and they're expanding b'pashtet, or b'gashmias, mami. In other words, that kilo gam, it's almost like a dose. It happens, but mamela. You don't realize it, but from time to time, you're drawing in more profundity than you had in the previous time around. That's the amazing point that's being made here. In other words, you deal with what you got, and the oimek will come on its own. וכן הלוימת ידבר שכל שהוא עומק מכלי מויכוי שיוכל מכל מוכן לבוא אלוהים כוי לאחר זמן על ידי שלוים הדו עניין כמה פעמים. Now we see this whole inyan that in Lubavitch they used to learn every mind from the Rebbe L'chol Hapachos 30 times. I see when the Rebbe used to say Maimonim to the Talmidim, and they used to learn them. I think it was a basic shir of Esrim or Shloshim Piyom that every book had to learn the Maimonides so many times over. what's the Indian there? The Rebbe said you don't go kriching in inyanim which are beyond you. What you did get, and the way you took it, the way you heard it, and the way your chaverim and your rav and that have helped you to understand it, then you just keep repeating that over. Lo yimedo inyan kama piyomim. The bechol pam harihu bo yoser al ho inyan ad yasik oisein. Until he is masik the inyan, each time he learns it, then we could suggest that he's masik a little bit. He's masik a further aspect and what you might call broader picture of the inyan. V'chein, says the Rebbe, amishchachim al dova ma, v'lo yochel lamid al boirui, ad shenisha etzlei behelem. He said, similarly, not a person learning an inyan that he's already learned, but he's trying to learn. Amishchachim al dova means that right from the beginning he's trying to get it. V'lo yochel lamid al boirui, ad shenisha etzlei behelem, until it remains tantalizingly behelem. So we have to say this B'chein is like a new inyan altogether. This is starting like what happens here in these Maimorim and Ayin Beis, that you sort of move from one inyan to another, which they are all based on a similar principle, but they're different, what you might call inyanim, they're different approaches or different nakudas in the inyan. So up to now the Rebbe said that the ikka is to busy yourself with your pnimi. Alidei gidla kelim, you come to the makif, which was nisha alecha behelem. Now he says, what about somebody starting from the beginning? Now mischachem al dover means that he's trying to get at it. Mischakeh means what's a chokhmah. In other words, he's been faced with a certain inyan, he doesn't understand it, and he's trying to get the first beginning. So the Rebbe says, "Amishchachem al dor ma, v'lo yochel amid al boiriyoi, ad shenisha etzlei behelem, harizeh ma shekvar bo mikoach hamaschil, v'chinas oyer muschal proti. Im lo ikein, hari lo yoyo ha'ishchachmas klal. V'me'ah shemishchachim bezeh, הרי זה כבר בו מבחינת מושכל פרוטי, רק שלא בו עדיין בואים כזה, שיהיה בבחינת שכל גלוי ממש. והיינו שלא נמדד עדיין בבחינת צמצום והגבולה, להיות בבחינת שכל גלוי. ואפס קוצאו מאה בכלי מויכוי, רק שמאה בבחינת מקיף לבוא. So, what is this all about, this piece? So here we're talking about a process which very darkistic inyanim is that a mensch approaches a certain muskal and he has no idea of it whatsoever, but he approaches it and he tries very hard to understand it, and b'emes he doesn't understand it. But what happens is that a person sort of, we'll sort of see that the Rebbe describes it in a little bit more detail. He feels a certain, like, approaching lichtigkeit. It hasn't actually become lichtigkeit mamish, because that's already more shatu, Baruch HaMavrik, or Lo Madreget. We're talking about a very deep inyan that he's not aware at all really of the musag, what it really is saying, even shel nakuda, but it's like it's sending him messages that he's about to get it, or something is like moving him towards that inyan in a way that he can't say that he has no shaykhs to it whatsoever, but he doesn't have it in the form of mamish seichel golo gamlo. Have you ever experienced that in life? Is that something? So the Rebbe is going to say that that's nitzutze yoer. Every now and then you get a little spot, and you feel you're moving closer, but you didn't actually. If somebody says, "What are you?" Let's hear what you got. He'll say, "Leave me alone. I gotta work at this." But he feels that he's already moving towards the inyan. So the Rebbe says
it's not
that,
Chochmah?
huh?
It's not
yeah, that's in Chochmah, that's already in Chochmah, but that's still in Yonim in Chochmah, which are Makivim alone. They're not Mamish B'derech Pnim. That's in the Indian of Oimek, yeah, Oimek, which is Oimek al Adam, but it's Shaykh Ela Gilui. And that's one Indian. Then we'll see there's an even higher Indian than that. But upon him, that's one Indian. So that was the Rebbe. If there hadn't been some Indian of Efes Kotzehu, some touch or edge, as you might call it, of that Indian had not revealed itself to him, then he would be just completely in darkness. He wouldn't have the faintest idea what he's doing, and he might even be what you might call instead of Mishayish Piatma. I don't know the famous. I just, I just don't know what's going on around here. Cloud. But the fact that he does somehow or another feel, and he's drawn more into the Indian, that is a sign that something has revealed itself to him, and we can call him Mishchakeim Bo Inyan. He's beginning to be a Mitchachem, that he could to use the Koyach HaChochmah practically in this Indian, albeit in an even for Makim. That's what we find the expression Keser Shebechokmo. Dainu Mokir Proti Lo'er Aseichel Shekwa Bo B'Pchinas Metzias Muskal. We're not talking here about the Koyach HaMaskil. Koyach HaMaskil, that's Chokmah Shebekeser. Here we're talking about Keser Shebechokmah. In other words, that Keser Shebechokmah means that a specific muskal is on its way out. How do you call it? It's beginning, the egg is beginning to be laid, as you might say. It's beginning to come out. But it's still in a oven that it's makif of the maskil. But it's already come in the form of a certain muskal, and therefore he's able to feel and sense that this is giving him what you might call a headline start. It's telling him that he's about to get it. That's called Keser Shebechokmah. The Chokmah Shebekeser, that's another way around. Who K'moy Koyach HaMaskil? What Koyach HaMaskil, that's the etzem Koyach Hiyuli of the Seichel, which is not a Seichel Prati. It's a Mokir Afala Sichliim, and it's a Hiyuli which doesn't have any Seichel Prati B'chlal, but it's Mamtzi to you a Seichel Prati. So he said that's a much higher Indian, which is Bentayim moved out from what we're talking about. Why? Because the Seichel Prati has already appeared here. The Seichel Prati has already gone out of the Koyach HaMaskil. U'kemoy Koyach HaMaskil al derech mashal, shu Koyach Hiyuli. What Hiyuli means, a general, all-encompassing source point, which is not identified by any given prat. It's Koyach Hiyuli al kol asichliim. It's not any given muskal. Muskal prati. In other words, that the prati's already gone out of the Koyach HaMaskil. It's already on its way down. Why do we call it a mocker? Because it still hasn't revealed itself in the full way. It's still in the form of makif. And that's the taich keser. Keser shel chochmah. And therefore it's called already a mokir, and it's already a specific Indian which has come out of the Koyach HaMaskil. V'hainu, k'mo shekvar bo mi Koyach HaMaskil, muskal prati, v'arihu b'chinas metzias muskal. It's already a metzias of a certain muskal. V'alkein hu nirgash b'moichoi, and therefore his brain is able to feel it. Well, that's what's brought down in many of the sikhs from the Frierdiker Rebbe, that you feel something, what do you do? Mefiltos. You almost feel it before you really know what it is really saying to you. But you have a min haragosha nafshi is that you've got some message here, but you didn't quite specificize it yet in your nakuda. V'alkein hu nirgash b'moichoi. Hu inyan hanocha. That's what's called the how do you call it? The hanocha. So the Rebbe teaches Rechtkeit. Shenirgash b'moichoi oid koidem shehunach loi. In other words, he feels the Anocha even before he has the Anocha. Because Anocha, that is already shaykh more to the Etzem Gilead Chochma, well, that's the Nakuda. That's called the Hanocha. And so what's the touch here, Anocha? So therefore the Rebbe puts in the Yiddish word that you can't really translate that Anocha because it's got the same word as what the afterwards Anocha is. That's called Anocha, that's called Anocha. So there was the Rebbe, how am I going to deal with that? I'll give you a name, Rechtkeit. Now what Rechtkeit means, that this makes sense. How do you call it? The rightness of it, in a way. The Rechtkeit means like the making sense, or the rectitude, as you might say, of the Indian begins to appear to him. In other words, he begins to see, that this thing, this thing is, how do you say, it's making sense, and it's a Adova Yoshua. How do you say it? This is really, something. When I really understand, when I get this, I can see how this is going to add to the properness and the uprightness and all those words of my understanding. I can see that this is really going to give me and enrich me, but I don't really know exactly how to describe it. But I can see that it's a very profoundly correct and informative thing. Rechtkeit. Or you might say, that you feel, to put it another way, you feel you're on the right track. Let's put it that way. You feel that you're getting the right thing, you're not on the wrong track. You don't know exactly what track, but you know you're on the right track. Have you ever said that to somebody? You can say, look, I don't know yet, but I know I'm on the right way. I'm going the right way. That's also a form of Rechtkeit, that you feel you're going or in the right, you're not on the wrong path. You haven't been led up the wrong street, as they say. And therefore, Anocha Rechtkeit shenirgish b'moichei oid koidem shehunach loi. Even before he says, now I got it, in the form of Anocha Nekuda Tison, Anocha 60. The Rebbe said, "V'chein hu inyan anitzutei oyer." That's one Indian. You feel you're on the right way, and you feel you've got something really profound and informatively upright. So then he says another Indian is that you feel lichtigkeit. Now this is another type of idea, that you feel nitzutei oyer shemeirim oid koidem shenizgala ha'oyer seichel. וכמו המעיין באיזה עניין שאין המובן לו, הרי זה בבחינת חושך והלם, ואחר כך נעשה אצלו אור, אז ותים lichtig. All of a sudden he begins to feel that there's some light shining here. והיינו מפני שכבר בו מושכל פרטי מכוח המשכיל בהנוחה ועוונס העניין. ומזהו הרגש הנוחה So the Rebbe says, Kumtais, that they're like two inyanim. There's first of all a feeling that you're on the right street. You feel you're on the right way. You're going towards a Dovat Sodek, Amiti. That's one thing. Then says the Rebbe, every seichel has got its light. It's got its illumination. In other words, let's say that you don't really understand all the details of it yet, but you can see that this is going to illuminate things. In other words, you feel, and your nefesh tells you, that Berega Shezeh Yered Od Ketzat, as it's going to illuminate things. It's going to show a whole new vista in life. In other words, that every seichel amiti that we understand brings us to some new illumination of life and of the world and of everything around us. For example, I know sometimes when any Indian that you learn should really be like that. Any Indian in Torah. Sometimes you learn a Sikha from Rebbe and you learn the main point that the Rebbe said in the Sikha, and all of a sudden that lights up everything. You see things in a completely different way. People say, my life, I see things differently now. Well, that's called lichtigkeit. In other words, it's not the etzem be on the right path of understanding the amitis ha'inyan. Well, that's already the illumination or the lighting up that the thing brings with it. So that occurs in the form of sparks even before you actually get it, even in the hanocha. But you begin to feel lit up from the inyan. That's a really pelitic that you begin to sort of feel an illumination and a change taking place in how you see existence even before you really understood what is being said to you. Yeah, that's a pelitic. In other words, when you hear a very profound Indian in Chassidus or in Pnimis HaTorah, for that matter, any Indian in Torah, before you're actually able to describe what you really understood, you feel that this is like illuminating your life. You feel that you're being given a whole new way of looking at things, even before you really understood this particular Indian. Maybe we could say it's a little bit like the B'Dimyon, Lo Mamish of it. B'Dimyon, the famous Pisgah of the Rebbe Marash. The Rebbe Marash said that when it's past nicht, you can become a Goen Godel. You heard the whole story of his past nicht? First of all, you persuade somebody that he should have a shiur every day in the Roman of the Mishnayos. So he learned something. And all of a sudden comes along the Yetzer Hara and says to him, do this and do that. And he said, wait a minute, do that? And he said, I'm already learning, I'm already learning Torah, I learn a shiur, it's past. Shouldn't really be doing that, it doesn't fit. So you drop that particular part on Hogesley Tayus, and then you go a bit further, you have already a shiur Pnimis HaTorah, you're already learning Pnimis HaTorah. Comes together, it's already, listen, what do we say about us doing this and this, and then you say, well, passage, Matim, I'm already learning Pnimis HaTorah, passage. It doesn't fit in that I should do kafa, and then you start davening a bit more b'kavona, a bit more b'pnimius, b'chule. I say, well, actually, it's mar, it's tefillah, and there's no Matim, it's passage. So the Rebbe Marash said to a chassid in Yechidus, this passage, you can become a Goen Godel, you can become a greater man by saying it. I already gone up a little bit higher in and passionist. What are the types of passionist? You really don't know exactly all the inyanim. You haven't really done a great deal. You only just began. But you feel a certain illumination in your life. You know that you've been lit up. If I'm anything which talks darkness, immediately doesn't cling. That's hello. You don't even know why, but you just know it. You got the idea? I don't know why yet, I haven't got time to work it out. That's the Indian. What we suggest here, that you begin to see and feel things, and this is going to illuminate your life and bring a whole new difference to your way of understanding, even before you understood it. It sends you a illumination and a feeling of how it's going to affect the world and illuminate it around you. And therefore it becomes lichtig. And why is that? Muskal proti mikra hamaskil be hanoches v'havones ha'inyan u'mizehu hergish hanocha. In other words, there's already come a certain thing from the Kör hamaskil. And it's already shot to Hanoches Vavonas Ha'inyan. It didn't come into that mamish yet, but it's coming in that direction. Shot to Hanoches Vavonas Ha'inyan. From that comes the Hergish Hanocha V'Ha'oyer. Rak Shu P'chinas Maki V'Helem Adayin V'Yover Lidei Gilui, and it'll eventually come to all those inyanim. But it's already Shayach Mitadatzme to Hanocha and to Avona and to all those inyanim. It just didn't make it yet. But because it's already come out of the Helem of the Kör HaMaskil into the general realm of those inyanim, you feel it. You begin to feel it. In other words, it's already, to a certain extent, you've already got it in your questionnaire. In other words, eventually it's going to come your way. But in the meantime, it didn't. But it is going to come l'idei gilui. Sure. That's, we've seen now two shlavim. We've seen one shlav of somebody being makabel on her pnimi. But there's a certain pour over, that didn't come into Asogya yet. And he's misasik in that, and misasik until gradually the oimek penetrates in through the pnimi. Another way is right from the very beginning, that the Adam is mischachim ba'ezadova, and he's starting right from the very beginning. And we see that there's a makif, but that makif will eventually become pnimi. And that's the inyan of the hergish ha'oyer v'hergish ha'anoche shel kesher shebachol. Right? So that's two approaches to this whole idea of the makif of Ur Yoshal. Now another thing says that Rabbi V'chein, another further possibility. Kishaim rimal eze seichel omek, what it's omek mi yimto eno. Now that's a pasuk in Koheles. Koheles said there are certain inyanim which are omek mi yimto eno. It's so profound, who can possibly literally find it, who can come to appreciate it. So it says the Rebbe she'ef shaloim zeh al seichel shaloim noida umusik afilo efes kotzeyu. The loy yitochen loima omiku. So the Rebbe said, this lashon omik miyim ta'enu, you can't say that about something which nobody knows anything about it whatsoever. In other words, something that nobody knows anything about whatsoever, you can't call it omok. When can you say that something is omok? When you began to touch it, when you began to understand it, you have some small and very limited appreciation, then you can say it's omok. Of something that nobody has any idea about, it's not shy to call omok. Televad she'enu shaykh l'dor l'daber b'seichel she'enu yoidim oisoi. Apart from the simple factor that if it's so deep that nobody knows anything about it, then you can't talk about it. If it's something which people don't know anything about, then you can't say it's nimto. You can't say omik mi yimto eno. Because the very fact that you say mi yimto eno means that maybe someone could find it, but generally speaking, you don't see how anybody's going to find it. Of something which is not known at all, and nobody has no asoga klal, you can't say that it's mi yimto eno, because it's eino nimto klal. Hine eino shai b'zeh inen ha'oimek, shezeo rak shaloi yagia lamitosei mipnei oimkoi, alo efes kotzeyu kvar musar. Something which has no knowledge and is not nimto, then you can't say about it that it's oimek. Oimek is only said about something where a little bit is already musag, but it's very difficult to reach the amitas ainya. Therefore, what you might call the majority of people are not going to reach the amitas ainya. When we say the majority of people, we mean rov afilu chachom. Therefore, we say omik mi yimta eno. But the truth of the matter is that maybe somebody will find it. Because if it weren't shy to find it, then it wouldn't be shy to say who can find it.
Why is it repeated omik? Why does it say it twice?
Because it's very deep. In other words, it's stressing that even in ordinary oimik, it's very oimik. You understand? And therefore you say mi yimta. Ukemoi oimek hamayon. Hu b'mayon shekvar nigla. You can only talk about the oimek of a mayon if you already know there's a mayon there. Sheyesh boi ma yesh a nigla v'oimek shaloi. Avo b'mayon she'eina nigla klal. In other words, the mayonas that are completely not seen by us, that they're under the earth altogether. Einu shak loima boi oimek. You can't say the oimek a mayon. You don't even know the mayon's there. You don't see the mayon ba ela she'emru zeh Al Seichel Sfora Shehi Amuka Musuteres Behester Uimek Amusak in the hiddenness of the profundity of the Musik Behester Uimek Amusik Lahasik Tachlis Amitoso Shehu Sosum Vanela Mikol Chacham. In other words, the majority of Chachamim ain't Chanamir. It's Sosum Vanela Megabeya. Al ze oma omik mi yimtzeinu sheinu yicholim love al ze aber efes kotzeu kvar musag. He said v'kasher niglo gam oise hoimek ari ze nikra gilui ta'alumis chochma. In other words, that there's such a thing as gilui ta'alumis chochma. So when we say ta'alumis, we mean things which are hidden, yeah, it's, how do you call it, things which are behelem. Ta'aluma is from the word helem. So the Rebbe said that when Efes Kotzehu is begoloi, eventually somebody will and can ultimately reach the Omek. Yeah, somebody can reach it. And then if he does, then he's called the Inifan Amasi of Ta'aluma's Chochmah. So that's what we find, that it's written in the pasuk when I get to the Luchas Shniyos, Vayaged lecho ta'alumais chachma. And it's pointed out that even from Luchas Shniyos, that was through the whole Inyan from Tshuva, through the whole Inyan. The first of all, there was a terrible Yerida, and Halidei Zeh, the Inyan from the Aliyah, B'derech Tshuva, v'chuli, and then there was Netoisef, Gemaras and Medrashes, and all the Inyanim in the Inyan from Torah. That brings, and that is Mekala, Ta'aluma is Chochma, Inyanin, even mitzat Torah, and had Torah been in a certain even, they would have remained completely beheled. And they were given to us alidei, the Inyan for Tshuva, and alidei, the Inyan of Yerida, Hakaduma. And it's possible to come through the Efes Kotzehu to the Amitius Gilui Hata Lumais. So we find that it has already been enough of the Yeridas in order to get to the Emes Ta'alumis. There's been plenty of Yeridas, and that's already been on the Rebbe. I mean, when I'm saying that the Rebbe said we've already been Yoitza with all those Yeridas and all those Inyanim of getting to the Ta'alumis, and the Emes Ta'alumis is already there, and it's already Begolu, and everything's ready. We don't need any more Yeridas. There's been enough Yeridas in order to reach the Ta'alumis Chochma, and the Efes Kotzehu was already a big Efes Kotzehu. The Chassidus and the Rebbe have almost revealed everything. So it's just a question of getting to the last. Oimek, in Mamera, let's get moving. Let's get cracking. Until we're going to see in the next chapter, even those things which are absolutely behelem and they've never been begolo, even though they're going to come begolo. So what are we waiting for? It's very hard to understand what is the, that's what the Rebbe said, what is the hold up now adding? What is it bringing to, Everything's kilo being mushla. That's the whole thing. So, Omen Ken Yehi Ratzain.